Hello, everybody. Welcome to the working group Green Reviews. And yeah, like this is that follows the CNCF conduct that can be summarized with be nice with each other. And yeah, for today, we'd like to give some updates. So I quickly share my screen about the Q2 state and the tracking issue that we have. So just as a quick reminder, we have this 3 proposal in place plus the 4th one of investigation. And yeah, like we have drafted proposal 1, and you can check here the PR for the proposal. And also we have started the implementation of the 3 tickets. And in the past weeks, 2 of them has been merged. So that's already very good progress. And yeah, maybe Ross, I would give the word to you to explain the detail of these 2 issues and what you implemented there. What do you think?
Yes, yeah, sure. Yeah, so yeah, let me just share as well. Yes. So we've implemented 2 of the 3 issues. Let me just find the tracking issue we've got. Yeah, so the first issue is the release trigger, which the bankers implemented. And so what this does is every day at 8 a.m. UTC, we check for what's the latest version of Falco. And then we start the pipeline 3 times, once per pipe Falco, and we test that with the latest version. And then we can also trigger that kind of ad hoc via the API. But one of the things we changed is rather than just running when there's a new version of Falco, which might not be for a few weeks, we now run it every day. So I can just show you the code out because I don't think the Falco's on call. But yeah, so we're slowly kind of adding some new actions in here. So the project trigger, yeah, this is where it runs at 8 a.m. And actually it's the script that it runs. So in the script, we have a project.json where we have Falco, and then we go through checking the version. And then here is where we call another workflow we've got the benchmark pipeline, and that does the deploy step, and we can add more steps as we go further along. So that's the first that's implemented. And then if I go to the benchmark pipeline itself, this was the issue that Sebastian implemented. And so what it's doing is it's looking for manifests based on the project and the driver, and then it creates the resources with that. Wait for them to be deployed, and then we'll delete at the end. And so this is the new structure we have with the project. We have Falco with 3 drivers. And then in here we have a customization per driver. And what I liked was the way this did it is, so the images and the version that we use is set here, so we can deploy any version of Falco as long as it's an image. We set some labels for it as well. The third issue, which is the one I still need to implement, is at the moment we populate all of the Falco drivers at once, and we just need to split those up into individual customizations, and then we can deploy each driver kind of one at a time. But yeah, that was just kind of a run through of the code that we've got so far. So the first 2 issues that are merged. There's still an issue with connecting to the cluster. So we just show here. This was the project trigger, which will run fine, but there's just some issues on the pipeline, which seem to be related to the config, so I'll debug that a bit later. Is there any questions on the deploy step?
I have a question for the rest of the working group. What can we do to help at this point?
Yes, yeah. I think the debugging to get the issue running, I still will kind of investigate that. At the moment, there isn't anything immediately that comes to mind. But I've also got some vacation coming up from the 3rd of July, so I'm just going to try and get the deploy steps completed up until then. So we'll kind of raise my hand if there's areas that need help. But I think for the first proposal, we're pretty much on track.
And
Yeah, that's good.
oops, sorry.
No, you go.
So for with the GitHub token that Leo got, that worked and that unblocked you, right?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Great.
Let me just check. So this was the action that ran, and with that we used the token and we triggered the workflow 3 times. We triggered the workflow per driver, so that's all fine. There's just this issue with the kubectl which just needs to be debugged. It seems to be just we have it as a secret and it's just copying it into the file system isn't working for some reason. So we'll probably try and debug that in the fork. But we haven't. This is kind of the first times we had to test this part, so I'm hoping that won't take too long to resolve.
But in this line it says kind command not found. So
yes, yeah, which we're not using kind in here. We're installing kubectl. Maybe it's something in the kubectl. I was also a bit confused there because we should be using kind.
okay, yeah, I just pasted the kubeconfig that you referenced, so which we have, and what was it? 1Password. So it's exactly
Yes,
the
yeah.
same, but this looks like the pipeline configuration. Maybe there's like some setup. Not right.
Yes, because it uses setup kubectl to install it, but I haven't seen it using kind anywhere in here. Because it's this step here, copying it, that fails. But yeah, I'm a bit confused why kind is appearing there.
Maybe set up kubectl Azure. Where is it? That's probably like a generic one, right? It's just like an Azure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Maybe they use
So yeah,
pipeline. I don't know. We would need to investigate.
yeah. I think because I think that action does a few things. I said so it could be installed there as well. I'm hoping once we get past this connectivity part, then the rest of the action will be okay. But it's just that step needs to be developed. For the changes for the 3rd vision that I'm working on, that will affect the repo that the Falco team have. So I was going to chat with Melissa about that and see whether she wants to do it or whether it should be okay if we can do a PR for that. But that's kind of the next step on that. I've got kind of a plan for it, but I just need to sync with Melissa about whether we can make those changes.
And that would be to change which part of their configuration?
Yes, yeah. Let me just find the repo. Yeah, so at the moment here we have one customization that has all of the files with all 3 drivers. My thinking on that was just to separate this, so we would have a customization, the driver in here, and then in our repo we would then reference the customization in this Falco driver eBPF. So I think it needs some restructuring there. We also might need to change some of the node labels. We have the node selector is using this Falco subcomponent, but actually what we'll have is we'll have the same node label for all 3, and we'll just deploy and test them individually. but yeah, it just needs that change to the customization of the note collector. So I've got a discussion over where I've been chatting with Melissa about the changes. So I just want to give her a heads up there and see, if we can get those changes in.
Just writing the notes. So with the Falco team, you were thinking of reaching out after you're back?
I think I've got the changes prepared. I'm hoping to notice it before I go. But yeah, it's next Wednesday. I'm obviously it's getting a little bit close, but I think I was going to just start this discussion with Melissa, and then hopefully we'll have time to complete it if not, I might wait to come back.
Okay.
Or else to hand it over.
Yeah, please don't feel too much pressure on this. It's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. And I think also we can also test with the current structure and just to make sure the pipeline's working. But yeah, we'll see kind of whether the changes can get in that. Otherwise, probably they can wait until I'm back. It's also Debank, I just noticed that you're in the chat as well. Do you want to talk about the sort of changes you've worked on with the pro trigger?
Yeah, so basically in the PR, we added a bash script which will take it will be triggered whenever per week or it is per day, and it will trigger and it will get all the latest versions of the projects we have currently supporting. And once it gets those versions, it will just trigger using workflow dispatch to this benchmarking dispatch workflow file. And from that, and it also has concurrency, so that it will in the benchmarking dispatch, it has concurrency, so that only one benchmarking happens at a time. So in the projects folder, there is a projects.json where all the supported projects are there. As of now, it is only Falco with the subcomponents as we have discussed in the proposal. Yeah.
Nice. I like your approach of having a JSON file with the different projects and their components.
Yes, hopefully that should be easy for us to extend it as we involve projects.
Okay, so seems like we have some stuff to debug, and like those like pull requests are coming to an end. So it's nice already. We can test the GitHub actions. We'll try to also bring some help so that we can do a nice handover for you when in vacation. Like we can smoothly transition, so that we can take care also while you're back away. And now I'll share the screen back. And so basically we talked about proposal 1. Again, like 2 of the 3 issues were closed. The third one is still open, but like we're working on it. And then I think it's time for you, Nikki and Flavia, to talk about your proposal. I think you don't have a PR yet, but you're very close, right?
We have one in draft, so we could go over that. Also, could someone take over notes, please, so that I can talk? So yeah, that would be great. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I can do that again.
Thank you. Okay, so Flavia, we didn't practice for this, but I guess we'll just go for it. Did you
Yeah, my brain is completely fried today. Started early and I don't think I can coordinate anything, but there's the link of the where we are working.
Nikki,
Yeah,
would you like to
also.
share the screen maybe and just walk us
Yep.
what you have written, like very quickly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Oh, yes.
So so Flavia shared a link to the proposal. Mm,
If you
let's
view
start.
if you click on to view the file, it's you can see it better.
Yeah. We do get the diagrams. Okay, great. Nice. So this part of the proposal is right after we have proposal 1, trigger and deploy. How do we create a modular way to fetch the benchmark tests? So we're doing this through GitHub Actions, and GitHub Actions have a great way of having modular moving pieces, and we're taking advantage of that. Flavia, would you like to go over any part, or do I just ramble on?
Yeah, let's see if I can. Yeah, basically, I don't know if everybody remembers. So with this proposal, we want to define how the benchmark tests are going to be run for each project, starting with, of course, Falco. And so we need to be able to explain how that happens, given that the proposal 1, how it started, how do we fetch the tests, how do we run them through GitHub Actions, as you said, and be clear about what, if anything, needs to be changed in the Falco project to adapt to this, and how to define new how new projects would need to define new tests.
Yeah, and part of the problem is that we have right now is that the benchmark test, for example, to add load to the kernel, the stress mg component, is actually a while loop, or yeah, it's a loop, an endless loop. So right now what we have is that we deploy this manifest with some instructions that just run this endlessly. And in the end, in our proposal, we're still going to apply this deployment, but it's not going to be deployed 24/7. So we're going to explain how we do that now, I guess. One non-goal is we're not actually in this proposal, we're not defining or designing the content of the benchmark test. So we have some user stories here that the CNCF project maintainer is to be able to create and run a benchmark test from a separate repository by following a template or instructions that we have in our documentation. A green review maintainer can help to create a new benchmark test. But we have written the mitigation that as much as possible, we want the ownership of benchmark tests to be part of the CNCF project maintainer's responsibility. So this is why we've decided to create 3 different ways of defining benchmark tests, whether these are from a different repository or on the Green Reviews tooling repository, or yeah, well, the modularity is that the benchmark test can be defined in this repo or a different repo. So that's the first part, and we can jump into the design details. We want to call out early on that it's important to be familiar with GitHub Action workflows before reading the rest of the proposal. So a workflow can run one or more jobs, so it kind of is a list of jobs. A workflow can call on another workflow as well. So yeah, the section on reusing workflows and calling reusable workflows is very important here. So okay, this link is not what I was hoping for.
What are you looking for?
The part that says how to use like the uses field, because that really will explain things. Okay, there we go. This is right. This is how to call a reusable workflow. This is crucial because we're in a job, we can call a workflow that is in the same repo. So you can see from this path, we're talking about this repo and there's a workflow there. Or you can call a workflow in a different repo. So you can see in this path that we're talking about another repo and the workflow is there. So this is how we're going to be able to register the benchmark tests as workflows in a job, which is in another workflow. So it will make more sense if we show the diagram. Maybe just jump here. So let's say this is the project workflow that we've defined in proposal 1. And we're creating some resources, running benchmark, and then deleting the resources. So this is just to illustrate that a benchmark can be in the repo itself. So with the keyword uses, we have the benchmark test defined in the Green Reviews working repository, or with the uses keyword, we can have it in a different repository. And we just apply, we just do kubectl apply, the manifest that we saw earlier, and it will apply to the Equinix cluster. So we do assume that we have kubeconfig available, which we do, because proposal 1 makes that available. And lastly, the nice thing is that even if the workflow is in a different repository and we're using the uses keyword, the variables and secrets that are defined in the original workflow that calls this are the ones are still valid. So even if Falco has defined a benchmark test that they want to apply and they want to use kubectl, they can do that because in our workflow, which calls it, we already have the authentication. That's kind of all I have, Flavia. I'd like to add something.
No.
There's more information in the proposal itself. Does anyone have any questions?
We-
I have one
we can-
question, or
Sorry.
actually, it's not that much of a question because I think this looks good in general. I mean, it's kind of like also along the lines of what we had before with the releases. So we need to be careful about like if we spread out, have multiple workflows all over the place, that we increase the complexity. Maybe we just need to be mindful because we have at the end potentially like 200 projects that we try to measure. So this kind of scales. Just that's like one thing. But because I think you mentioned like a couple of ways how to integrate the pipeline stuff. Is there like one that we implement now and other options that we kind of push because they're not relevant for Falco? So they're kind of like, they will be implemented down the road, but first we kind of focus on one workflow because we kind of try to reduce the work that we get the workflow running basically end to end. And then multiple or other options, how to trigger the pipelines or how to integrate different flows can be added later, I don't know, in half a year or something to enable more projects, but maybe it's for like the Falco case not important. So this would be potentially good to just reduce the amount of work that we need to do right now to get benchmarking like a first step sort of.
Yeah, I definitely have a preference between the three ways that we've outlined here. I think having a job workflow in its own directory in the Green Reviews working repository would be the best of the three options because we don't necessarily want to have the kubectl apply manifest or steps in this. Just it would be confusing. But if we have it in the Green Reviews working repository, we can then create like a library of benchmark tests, which is another idea that Flavia and I want to write about next. So this would probably be the preference if I were to choose, but then we also have the flexibility of having like a CNCF project can do everything, define everything themselves, and just we call their workflow. So
yeah,
this is like plan A, plan B.
Sounds good. I mean, that's like also one thing. So if we allow access to the cluster from pipelines which are outside, this also, I mean, it's maybe not for our project such a big deal, like security wise. Ideally, we want to restrict that only our repository has like direct access to the cluster. If I understood this plan right on the left side.
Wouldn't you have to say users anyway in our workflows?
So it's a dispatch, right? Yeah. So we pull the pipeline from the other repository, sort of, and then run it in our repository, or
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then yeah, it's kind of like it's I think it should be fine. It's not a problem. But the same thing, like if you reference, for example, like a script which can dynamically be changed, It also kind of opens up security risks. But I think for our case, this is not like should not be a huge deal, but still.
I think one of the reasons to allow these options is because Falco is a restriction with Falco, right, Nikki? That they cannot make changes in or contribute in green reviews for some reason, and that's why we have their tests in their repository. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
I think it was something from Melissa, right? Melissa's, like from Apple or something. But
Yeah.
didn't she also get like access to contribute to the working group green reviews repository, or is this not the...
They can request access for 2 weeks at a time or something like that.
Okay. Enterprises.
Yep.
I put my hand up, Nikki, but I think Leo kind of covered it. I was just gonna say I agreed with your analysis of benchmark job 2. Is it 2? Yeah, using the workflows in green reviews being a good option. Do we firstly, the library sounds like a good idea as well, just for visibility and being able to find the things. Do we expect to have a lot of other projects wanting to have things outside of the outside of the green reviews tooling repo, or is this just literally for genericity and the ability to use it? I mean, obviously it's a thing the workflows allow you to do anyway, but
I think it would be I'm wondering like if there's any other examples in the CNCF like that we can learn from, as in, do we expect in general for CNCF projects to be fully encapsulated and have everything secure? The security has their own testing, but do they expect CNCF projects to add things to their own repos or to open a pull request or an issue in like the tag security repo, for example? That would be a good question to the
yeah.
TOC.
Are we trying to approach this from like a self-service perspective where they can create the workflow themselves that we'll then use? Is that where this is coming from?
Yeah, I think this is like a platform type of thing where we have the platform it's self-serve.
On the
Okay,
other
yeah,
hand,
that makes sense.
I mean, we are trying to be to accommodate and be flexible so that people want to use it, but I think it should be easy, right, to create a pull request in the green reviews repo and get it done that way. I think because I do tend to agree with Leo that we need to keep it simple. So yeah, if we start with one implementation of one of these options, and then we see what life brings us, we can always implement more later.
I would love to hear from people if you have a preference between this option 1, option 2, option 3. I feel like option 1, we should not even do that, because if we have all the benchmark tests in the project workflow, that will just be, we should split it out, right? So should we remove this altogether or keep it?
Yeah, maybe remove it. I feel like there's not many situations where it would be handy to have it right there in the workflow. I can imagine it rapidly spiraling into a lot of things in one place.
Yeah. And then job 3, option 3 would be like a second alternative. Yeah. Okay, everyone is saying second, that to have this, to have it, yeah.
Yeah, Nikki, just a follow-up question. Like, I might be wrong at this point because I have not read this proposal, but what I'm getting is, so if the particular project is not willing to like contribute to the tags, like directly adding the manifest, then we will jump for the option of job 3 so that we can fetch the manifest. And by that fetching, we can deploy the work that this manifest. Once we deploy it, then we will perform some benchmarking, or is the benchmarking already present in the manifest? Like whose control is whose control is this benchmarking thing? Is it outside repo, or we will define it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because here, for example, it explains better what a benchmark job could look like. So it would be like, for example, in the Falco example is apply this while loop for 15 minutes.
Okay.
And delete. I mean, this could also just be in the manifest itself. So the manifest with the test instructions. So with Flavia, we're talking about, you know, how to define each thing. This we're trying to say the test instructions. So the test instructions are the responsibility of the CNCF projects themselves, or at least it should be owned by them, and we can help them with it.
Okay, so like in the previous calls, like I guess there was some discussion, like if a lot of projects will have some like they can change the benchmark, then they can edit it, like they will get a better SCI score kind of thing. That could be another problem.
Like to have a check of what the project contributors are submitting as benchmark tests.
Like yeah, we can do that as well, but like let's say, yeah, like let's say like Falco is giving us this benchmarking step, okay, and internally it could also be happening like this testing is very suited for Falco and it gives a higher score as expect like we could do it much better way, like some standardized way or something like different from the wait time or boosting the CPU cores to the maximum throttling part. By that we can get a much better SCI, something like that. Like I'm not sure, but yeah, but that control, I'm not sure with that, like who should go with the control, that part. Yeah.
So in this proposal, did you make a very good point? It's just that in this proposal, we wanted to not discuss how the benchmark tests themselves should be defined and what they should contain. More how we call them.
Okay.
And I think that would be proposal 4, if I'm not mistaken, like the nitty-gritty of like how we design the tests.
Yeah, sure.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. Not sure, me as well.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Like this is just how, like the interface to call the benchmark jobs, and then like proposal 4 will take care of what benchmark job is better, or like what combination of benchmark jobs is better. I was just wondering because I'm asking myself if the current implementation of the of proposal one will also automatically deploy the stress, so like the benchmarks that are in there, right? Like I remember there are 3 drivers, and then inside these 3 drivers there are like around 4 or 5 YAML, and like a couple of those are like benchmarks altogether. I was trying to look back at the code, but yeah, like Ross, do you know if we deploy already like the stress ng test and or like only the Falco driver?
Yes, yes. So right now we will deploy the benchmarks because in that the customization I showed at the start that has everything, including those commands. But we can remove those whenever we want, really. So that's what I would think is I think we'd use that customization just to deploy Falco and remove the benchmarking steps, and then we would use the steps in proposal 2 to then to trigger the benchmarks.
Okay, so this is like goes into the topic of the communication with Falco to basically restructure, like to move away the benchmarking and somewhere else so that then proposal 2 can call it, right?
Yes, yes. So when we do the restructuring, we could also remove the benchmarks as well. At this stage, I'm not actually sure at what point it's best to remove the current approach. Nikki, when do you think we should remove the current benchmarks?
I think we should talk to like since we are shaping the proposals in this way, we should just talk to Melissa or whoever is managing the Falco repo, so that like basically they can organize the driver in some places and the bench, like basically just split the benchmark and drivers, so that with proposal 1 we can just call the deployment of the driver, and with proposal 2 we can call the benchmarks, and we already go into this direction of having things modularly. And I think it would be better so that we don't have, because like it was just asking them to adapt to the way we shape it, and it would be also first good example to show, okay, like Falco use these instructions, quite easy to follow, and you just replicate it. And I think it's also quite straightforward, because like at least to me, I remember at the beginning it took me a while to understand that when you deploy a driver, a Falco driver, also the benchmarking gets deployed, because it's just a bit messy. Also replicated code in that part. So like we have a, like I think we need to ask them so that we can validate proposal 1, and we don't have to install everything and then delete specific things. Would be more straightforward.
Yes, it could be great. And that discussion I posted, that's why I kind of let Melissa know where we work when we're working on the design for the deploy step. So I was going to post and then kind of update her, and can also say, mention this issue about the benchmarking as well then. And I think that's kind of a process of just having a discussion there rather than having issues. And we can get some feedback from Melissa there.
Yeah, I think now that we have a clear proposal 2, and now we would like to structure, it's easier to just maybe for like, I don't know, this EVP, exactly, like have one Falco driver and remove basically the Redis, stress ng, and event generator somewhere else, so that we can call these 3 separate benchmark that they used. Or we can also like adapt them to, but like for us it would be a bit it's better if they reorganize in that way. I think it's easier for us. If of course they want to collaborate, we can like act accordingly, but since like we're going to shape the proposals this way, I think it's easier if we ask them to separate those 3 YAMLs that they have.
Yep, that sounds good to me. That would be great.
But yeah, like thanks a lot, Nikki and Flavia. I think the proposal it's yeah, straightforward and looks like a possible, like a good way to go. And yeah, actually, I would say let's publish the PR in the group and yeah, give it around so that maybe for next working group we can already merge it and we can start with the definition of the action issues.
Yeah, we could like Flavia and I will talk this week. We can see if we should remove the first way of defining test instructions that were in line, because I think that will get messy very quickly. And then we can
Yeah,
focus
let's remove that.
Yeah, so it's just 2 and 3, which will become 1 and 2, and then we can I think we could already open a pull request for what we have here and then add new pull requests the same way as what proposal 1 is doing. I think it's a good way of working, like just create updates that are, you know, in chunks.
Yeah, I also like it because then if you take a look at the history, you can see how the proposal evolved and it's easy to track.
And yeah, and I completely agree. Flavia, what do you think?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Some things that we surfaced of what we should also look into. What was this? From trigger pipeline, go to the project pipeline to run the test of a specific CNCF project. Oh yeah, the subcomponents. So we wanted to add some parameters, and how we pass down parameters such as subcomponents. Yeah, we'll find a way. I think we just need to write it down. I don't think this will be very
Yeah,
hard at
I
all.
have a minor comment, right? Like actually that I've it just came up into my mind. I don't know if subcomponents for Falco is the right word, because like those three are not subcomponent of the same big project, but are really just three drivers of the same application, right? Yes, exactly. So I'm not sure if they're like we might wanna talk about drivers or variation, because for them it's like they want to test Falco in these three use cases, but I think subcomponent it's a misleading word because it makes you feel like they're part of the same thing, whereas like those three elements need to like basically be processed once after another, and are really three different like are basically three different ways of installing Falco.
It's like 3 configurations.
Yeah, exactly, 3 configurations. Sorry, I was missing the word. Big rounds of word.
Yes, I think configuration. Thanks for that. That's a much better name. Yeah, I wasn't kind of super happy with the name either. I think wanting to test the different configurations of Falco makes sense. And it might also be for the benchmarks. And currently the benchmarks of Falco are like all the same. So we might have like separate configurations when we deploy. We just use the project name for the benchmarks. Which is something I was thinking of when you were mentioning that issue.
Yeah, I also didn't notice like while I was reviewing the PR, but yeah, like only now it came into my mind. And yeah, maybe I mean it's good to have subcomponents as well, because maybe one component like I have in my mind definitely different project that might have subcomponents, but yeah, like in this case it's more of configurations.
Do you think we'll have this happen again with a different CNCF project?
Subcomponents or configuration?
Yeah, either of those.
I don't know, for some projects, like for example, I don't know, one that comes into my mind is keyclocks as a subcomponent as a Postgres instance, for example, that needs to run. Configurations, I don't know. I think it's quite Falco specific, to be honest. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's good to have the option, I would say, and maybe one can choose to leave it blank.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't make the code too much subcomponent specific in this case. So maybe that's also something we need to review.
We can always add another thing, subcomponents later, but just keep it to configurations now.
Yeah. Yeah, we can keep it for now. And then now to extend it, will be also room for the next quarter, quarter.
Another
the next project might not even need different configurations. I think we'll have a better idea once we know what that project is.
Yeah, I'll add this. Okay. Yeah, and all of these we can call them variations, configurations, subcomponents, etc. Okay, cool. So the next, we have 5 minutes, but yeah, things we haven't included in this proposal yet is the directory structure for that we want to have, for example, to have collecting the workflows and their jobs in libraries in the repo itself. And the directory structure of, for example, what we were just saying about Falco and how we want to change that. Cleaning up test artifacts and creating a template for how to register the benchmark tests to make it easier. So yeah. We'll open the pull request and then you can leave your feedback there.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, just to give a quick overview on what's left, basically. Let's share again my screen. So we talked about proposal 2. PR is coming soon. Review and merge will hopefully done between the next or the one after a meeting. Proposal 3, we had some async message from Chris that could not reach us today, but he said he's working on something. So there are some progress. So most probably we'll also post PR here at the report. And for the benchmark investigation, we still have we're still lacking an owner. And I was thinking about drafting a message we were thinking about drafting a message to the channel first, and then maybe do a collaboration with comms with an article more open to everybody if we don't get someone interested just from the channel only. And the idea is to get some experts on board so that maybe you could take the proposal, could help us shape the proposal or review it or give some ideas and something like that. But yeah, overall, so proposal 1 is landing to it's already very good progress and implemented code. Benchmark will come shortly. PR, this represents work in progress with Chris, and this we need to do some communication to see if someone else can be enabled. And I would say with 2 minutes on the clock, that's it from us from my side. Is there something else that you would like to talk about quickly?
Not me.
Sounds like a no. So yeah, I guess I wish you a good evening, and yeah, see you in 2 weeks.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.